All right, so today I want to talk to you about something which is rather quite important, and that is exogenous disruptors, or basically chemicals from our environment that wreak havoc and disrupt our natural functioning. And this is something which, for some reason, is not very well known or talked about in modern times, especially in America. And if you even start to mention it, you're automatically categorized into like conspiracy theory type territory or some sort of like health wacko, which I think is a great way of dismissing someone's perspective without even understanding or trying to hear what they're saying. And it's a way for people to stay sometimes locked in ignorance. Because even for me on a personal level, I tended to stay away from this subject matter and even selling products of this nature for that very reason. But if you actually do any degree of research, you see that there's actual studies, there's actual legitimate institutions and resources which have investigated substantial amounts of time and energy into study this. And linked below in this video or this podcast, I'll send some links where basically you can read this 290-page report that the World Health Organization printed out, I think, in like 2013. And basically, the title of it is Everyday Chemicals Linked to Modern Diseases. And through that, they go over many different chemicals and many different aspects from our environment that are literally disrupting our hormones and talking about how it's, really lowering sperm count across the globe, like by as much as 40%. And a lot of other things which you're free to research on your own, but let's just say it's causing people a lot of harm. It's causing people a lot of diminished quality of life, which they may not even realize it. This is really a profound thing, is that sometimes people don't even know that they're operating at a very low level of health because they think that's just normal or they think that's just the way it has to be. When in reality, that's not really the case. And sometimes it's just a fascinating thing on a personal level to have seen in myself over the years and to see in many other people that I've worked with, where they sort of accept this low level of life and vitality when in reality there's a lot more that we could be experiencing. So what are some of these disruptors? Well, one of the big ones are xenoestrogrens, or excessive plastics or estrogenic compounds in the environment, which we're all coming in contact with pretty frequently. So a lot of these single-use plastics and really soft plastics are very porous. So we're touching that, we're holding it, we're coming in contact with it. So there's some transference between our skin based on the oils. Even just like in our cars, grabbing and holding the steering wheel hours a week, that those plastics and all of those preservatives and whatever that's on the seats and on the steering wheel, they're baking in the sun, they're getting volatilized, and then we're getting in there, we're hotboxing it, we're breathing it in, we're handling it. So those are just a couple ways. That's not even considering things that are in our clothes or in our hygiene products or in our toilet paper or tampons or drinking water, whatever. So it's like you could see how easily we could go down this very paranoid rabbit hole of like, oh, there's chemicals in everything. What am I going to do? And that's not really a constructive or particularly pragmatic or helpful perspective. It's just a bit more helpful to kind of be a bit informed, have some information, and try to make better decisions and control what you can control and try to move on from things that you can and not be so bogged down by it, because oftentimes people really get sucked into that. And then they want to go so far as to say like, oh, there's a specific agenda, they're doing it on purpose. It's like, maybe, but that's not really relevant. Maybe not. We'll see. But that's not something we can really change. All we can really change is our own conduct, our own actions, and the own choices that we make. So other things are like pesticides and herbicides, things like Roundup that are in quite a lot of things. We're all being exposed to it on a regular basis. Things like chlorine and fluoride in the water supply. You know, you're taking a hot shower, you're vaporizing that stuff, you're taking it straight into your skin, which is not so good for your actual gut biome and your overall biome and level of health, let's say. So if you don't already have a shower filter, you definitely need to at least get a shower filter. It will make a big difference. I can tell you that. You'll feel your skin less dry, your hair less dry. Because I remember before I had a shower filter, I'd always have this kind of gunk in my hair, and my skin would always feel kind of dry and real irritated after showering. And then once I got a decent filter, that was no longer the case. But then if I say go to hotels or travel and there's not filters, you definitely notice it. So it's just kind of a basic, simple, obvious thing that people aren't always that hip to. So there's many other strategies that people can get into once they're like, oh, this chemical thing is really a problem. I need to, get rid of it. I need to get it out of my system. Sometimes people go as far as developing kind of like a bubble boy type mentality where the world's bad, the world's evil, the world's toxic, I can't do anything, I can't go anywhere, they're all out to get us. And that's really not an enjoyable way to live, and it's not very, it's not helpful. I mean, it's that negative attitude and all of that fear and anxiety is just going to underride your immune system and your overall functioning anyways. So it's not particularly useful. Neither is, using a bunch of fear-mongering tactics that a lot of people do in this genre. So I just highly recommend reading the links and the resources that I've posted below here and doing just a little bit more research, and you can see pretty quickly and easily how much this is an actual issue and how oftentimes, at least on a personal level, I think it causes people a lot of mental fog, lack of mental clarity, general diminished cognitive ability, for one, and a lot of autoimmune and immune system irritations, just because on a general level, these chemicals, these compounds build up in the body, and it's like a constant low-grade stressor. It's like a constant low-grade inflammation that's happening all the time. So over time, that just can wear you down. So you live in this state of irritation and inflammation, which if you're feeling that at a pretty core fundamental level, it's obviously going to make it more difficult to make better decisions and to feel happier and to sleep better and have, a higher quality of life because you just feel irritated all the time. And this is even true on an unconscious level, meaning if your body is dealing with things like this all the time, your actual conscious awareness will eventually start reflecting that. It's kind of similar to like an emotional type thing or a psychological type thing, meaning if you're just repressing and denying and trying to not look at a bunch of stuff that's happening to you and for you and in your experience, that just kind of will eventually accumulate a lot of pressure and irritation in your system that will come out in other ways. So this is in many ways no different. So some of the strategies that people will get into to remove these things from their system, things like infrared saunas, which I think are great. I've done them quite a bit myself in the past, but I think they can be a bit draining if they're overdone. And for certain people who are perhaps already in a really diminished state of health, they can be something that they really kind of need to work up to. Not only that, but they're kind of expensive. And to buy one yourself is a bit expensive, or to go to a place, it kind of adds up. But I mean, if someone has the budget and has the space in their house or apartment or whatever, then it can be great. But then it's also, you got to sit in there for an hour and then, deal with those aspects. People are really into also activated charcoal lately, which I think is kind of probably great if you just drug overdosed. But as a regular supplement, I'm not totally convinced that it doesn't just pull everything out of your digestive system and actually pull nutrients. So I've never really been a big fan of it, to be honest. I mean, if you want to use it topically on your skin, or like I said, if you have like eaten a bad food or ingested a chemical of some sort, then yeah, it can be useful. Also things like chlorella, I don't know why I have trouble saying that word right now, chlorella, and spirulina, things like that, which are great supplements, great things to be taking, but generally not, I don't think, that effective in this genre. People also get into like juice fasting, which again is not the worst thing in the world, but I don't think it's particularly the greatest thing in the world either, from the perspective of it's generally rather expensive to buy all the produce and buy all the juice. It's a bit time consuming, it's a bit of a commitment. And not only that, but it can just kind of stir a lot of stuff up and can make people feel worse. And not only that, but there's just the Chinese medicine perspective where you're just eating cold, damp things all the time. Which sure, you might get a small detox or cleansing effect, but in actuality you can really make your digestive system worse over the long term. And I saw that in my own experience when I was into that stuff, and I see it a lot in other people who go deep into those types of approaches and those kinds of diets. They actually undermine their digestive capacity over the long term. It's not to say there is not a time and a place and that certain people in certain situations wouldn't benefit, because definitely people could. And, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have in your life at some level, but to go all the way to a certain extreme might be a bit much. But you might need it. I don't know. It's just never really appealed to me since the couple years that I was really into it. There's also other supplements that people do, like EDTA or even zeolite powders or zeolite liquid suspensions. The problem with that, again, is oftentimes these aren't that effective, or they can kind of stir things up. Or like the zeolite powders, for example, they kind of just get stuck in the GI tract because the particle weight and size is not really small enough, or the powders themselves haven't been tested to verify that they themselves aren't contaminated. And then the liquid suspensions are just those powders in water, so you have the exact same problem that you had with the powders. Not to say that, like, if you want to do a zeolite powdered bath or something, that could be useful, or like clay baths and things like that. But to actually take it, it's not always that effective, especially because oftentimes it's like a multi-level marketing thing. And I'm just personally not a big fan of those models. However, if the zeolites have actually been hydrolyzed, then that means the particle size, the particle weight is actually small enough to be able to do what it actually needs to do. And that's why I've decided to start selling the Vitality Detox Drops on Hyperion, which you may have already seen me talk about because I've been posting videos and stuff about it recently. But why I like that product, and I think it's superior to many of the other things that I have listed, is for a few reasons. The first is it's an actually hydrolyzed, and then it's actually lab tested to verify that the particle size and the weight is actually small enough to cross the blood-brain barrier. And then it's actually a true binder, meaning it can actually go in and bind to these chemicals, these exogenous things, and help to escort them out of the body. Obviously, you need to make sure you're going to drink plenty of water, because it's really quite important, especially when you're taking a product like this. So lab tested to verify the actual particle size and weight is correct, and actually the thing has been hydrolyzed, and lab tested to actually be free of all the heavy metals and the contaminants. Because this is something you'll hear people say is like, oh, people take zeolites and then they do, what's the word? They do release, or they do eliminate a lot more metals in their urine and their stool, but those metals are just from the zeolites themselves. It's just because the zeolites are contaminated. And it's like, well, I mean, maybe, but these are actually tested to be free of those things. So in actuality, then that can't really be the case. But yeah, it's understandable, is just on a general point of view, that a lot of the supplement industry is pretty low quality. And that's honestly why on a just for myself, I'm not a big fan of the industry a lot of the time. And a lot of the critiques that I hear about the industry from the other parts of the world, I actually often agree with because there's just a lot of hoopla and nonsense in the supplement industry and the natural health world, and a lot of just really low quality products pushed by people who generally don't even really care a lot of the times. It's just, and then even if you can see the charts where basically a lot of the actual natural quote companies that you see in health food stores are just owned by the same conglomerate multinational corporations that own mostly everything else. So it's like, obviously they don't really care and they don't really know, and there's no actual passion or investment to actually help people. So anyways, it's a bit of a tangent. I can do a whole other video just on that subject. But I've been using the product for quite a while myself, and I really enjoy it, and I have benefited from it, as have my friends and people close to me that I've had testing it as well. The people that I'm sourcing it from, I've spent time, getting to know them and talking to them, and they're actually legit stand-up people who care about helping people and actually take their own product and believe in it. So to me, those are all important components. And I think it's something that can really help a lot of people, and is something that's really quite useful and important, especially in modern times, for many of the reasons that I outlined in the beginning of this video. And I'm just being very concise when I was talking about, the xenoestrogrens and the pesticides and herbicides and the chlorine and fluoride and radiation. I could have spent many hours just going through each of those subjects, each of those chemicals, and talking about things that it does and where it comes from, and etc. But there's plenty of other people who have done a lot of that research already, so I don't think I necessarily need to repeat it. And it's easy if you go too deep into it, you can kind of venture into like a bubble boy type situation. But really, it comes down to really simple, easy things that we can do on a regular basis to help mitigate these things that we're all dealing with. So for me, I've noticed definitely a decrease in inflammation. I've noticed my sleep has been better, my mental clarity and focus has been better, and the kind of low-grade irritation that I was feeling all the time that I think was probably from radiation, that has diminished as well. And especially because I fly a lot, travel all over the United States and in Europe. So having these drops with me has been really useful and helpful, especially because you're getting radiated pretty strongly when you're on the plane. And, I can do a pretty long 9-10 hour transcontinental flight, and I get off the plane, I feel pretty good. I don't feel thrown out of whack or anything. I just feel like good. So I think that is that's a useful thing. And the drops themselves are very easy to use. You just take like 10 drops twice a day in your water, or just directly under the tongue and chase it with some water. It's really quite simple and easy, but it can actually help start to remove and bind these things out of the system. And basically at that dosage, a bottle will last about a month. So it's pretty straightforward and easy. Other things that come to mind is if you're really sensitive or you're dealing with something that's somewhat significant as far as a health issue, you might want to only start with like 2 drops or 5 drops and work your way up to 10, and make sure that you really increase your water intake. And then if you take it and you start to feel kind of detoxy or a little bit of those Herxheimer type reactions, then maybe also you can scale the dose back. Like when I first started taking it, the first few days I was hitting 10 drops twice a day, and I started to feel a little tired and run down, or just a little tired and achy, like, oh no, I feel this doing something. So I pretty much just cut it down to 5, and then had to remind myself to drink more water, and then over like a week or two, work back up to 10, and it's a piece of cake. Now I can take 10 twice a day, and it's no problem. I just have to remember to make sure I drink water. But I think it's, again, a really great product that can solve a lot of hopefully solve a lot of problems and help mitigate a lot of the things that we're dealing with in modern times. I've noticed nice benefits myself, and then talking to the owners, they've told me some pretty crazy stories about clients that have had pretty awesome experiences as well, people that are dealing with significant health challenges, let's say. So anyways, if you want to learn more about the zeolite drops, definitely go to hyperionherbs.com, or you can click the link below. I highly recommend it. That's my sales pitch, basically. Not even, I don't know, I'm not even really trying to hype it or use any fear mongering. It's just kind of like, here it is, here's what it does, and here's how I think it can help you. Here's why I like it and think it's good. Arrive at your own conclusion. So that's pretty much it. But I think it is superior because, again, it's hydrolyzed, meaning the particle weight and size is small and small enough to actually do what it needs to do. And it's actually a true binder, and it's super easy to use, and it's actually been lab tested to verify the hydrolyzed process, meaning the particle weight and size is small, and that it's actually tested to be free of heavy metals and contaminants itself. So I think it's pretty awesome. I've been taking it myself for over a year or so, something like that. So pretty excited to be having it added to the Hyperion catalog, and hopefully you check it out and enjoy it, and hopefully it can help you deal with whatever it is that you're dealing with, which if you're living in a city, you're living in the modern world, you definitely have exposure to xenoestrogrens, pesticides and herbicides and roundups and chlorine and fluoride and radiation and many other things. So anyways, check out hyperionherbs.com for the Vitality Detox Drops, or check the link below, and I will talk to you soon.